What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 10-team PPR setup. We've got the third pick overall. As you can see, we are just waiting for this thing to kick off. And while we do, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comments section. Along with any questions you guys might have, we will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you can want at great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this draft. And even though it's, taking a while for it to get to us, I anticipate the first two picks will be Christian McCaffrey followed by Dalvin Cook. And I'm going to just try and, follow principled draft approaches here and go best player available, go running back early, build a balanced team. And I think that it'll be pretty easy to do. I think this spot right here between the third, fourth, fifth pick overall is usually what I've found the most, inducive of a just really strong draft. It's one of my favorite draft spots to have, this 3, 4, 5 slot. So I think we'll be able to come away with a very strong starting running back. And then from there, we'll be able to kind of take it as we go. And here, third overall, I'm just going to keep it simple. Full PPR scoring, I'm going Alvin Kamara third overall. Nothing to really, think over too much. I really like Kamara on this offense. Good offensive line. He's going to get a lot of targets, especially when Michael Thomas is out. And I've said it before, Jameis Winston, if he's the starting quarterback all season long, I would not be shocked to see Alvin Kamara finish as the top overall running back for 2021. But afterwards, we see Derrick Henry, followed by Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce. This is full PPR scoring. I get it. You want those stud pass catchers. But in my opinion, I continue to say it, the first round, it just belongs to the running backs. And that's the way you should go. Now, to be fair, I do see Saquon Barkley as a risk, who ESPN has ranked all the way up to their number 3 player. But, I guess some people are going to throw caution to the wind, take him 7th overall here. Again, there's a couple other running backs that I would take above him, namely Ezekiel Elliott, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, probably Jonathan Taylor as well. But if you really want to go big or go home, then I guess Saquon Barkley is the guy you're going to do it with in the middle to the end of the first round. After Barkley, you see Tyreek Hill, followed by Zeke, and then Antonio Gibson. Interesting to see Antonio Gibson go above Austin Eckler and above Aaron Jones. I don't really understand that at all. And then, wow, I would call this a surprise. The first pick in the second round, Darren Waller. Usually, Darren Waller is a guy that goes at the end of the second round, early third round. And, that's in 12-team leagues. In 10-team leagues, this is the earliest by far I have seen Darren Waller go. And I say this with Travis Kelce as well. I'd much rather get a stud running back, which there are still a decent amount of, as opposed to a tight end that I feel like I can get a pretty good one like in the 5th round, namely like a, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson type of guy. And in the previous rounds, kind of focus on those other more important positions, running back and wide receiver. But I guess there's a argument to be made about this being a 10-team league, you wanting to stand out at certain positions like tight end that can be just a wasteland from year to year. And since you've got the last pick overall, Darren Waller isn't going to get back to you, so you just pull the trigger right then and there. Now, I will say that's why having one of those final picks is a little bit tough, because it's going to mean you're reaching from time to time. But I want to quickly touch on our second pick here. We were so close to starting out a full PPR draft with Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler. That's absolutely insane. I would have quit right there. Just those two guys alone. And I feel like we would have won this league. But unfortunately, no, we don't get the, ability to draft Austin Eckler, pair him up with Kamara. So here I'm just going to go with a wide receiver that I really like. I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley. Not going to overthink it too much. I think Calvin Ridley at this spot is pretty appropriate. Najee Harris, yes, he was probably the suggested choice, but I've got question marks about that offensive line. I've got question marks, about whether Najee Harris is going to be able to put up decent numbers. Yes, he'll get the volume, but I mean, there's been instances before where leading guys get the volume at the running back position, and volume alone doesn't save them when their offensive line isn't reliable. Namely, look at Joe Mixon last year. Look at Todd Gurley from a few years back. So there's definitely things to consider there. Now we're back on the clock here. And we can go one of two ways. We can go get somebody like a Justin Jefferson, somebody like a Keenan Allen, and get that second really good wide receiver, or we can go and get our next rated running back here, and that's the direction I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, just to give you guys an idea of what other running backs we could go with, CEH, James Robinson, obviously with his stock now skyrocketing because Travis Etienne is no longer there for the season. He would have been an option. Somebody else, Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift, but again, Swift dealing with that groin a little bit concerning. So I just decided to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a guy that I feel is pretty safe as well on a great offense. Also Le'Veon Bell, Damian Williams no longer there. So it should be a situation that's a lot better for him. Hopefully we see more of early season 2020 Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all of 2021 as opposed to late 2020 CH when Le'Veon Bell got there. But I do think the usage will be much better for Clyde Edwards-Helaire this season. Let's quickly break down what's happened these last few picks. In fact, I'll probably go all the way back to the second round. We were touching on Darren Waller. Afterwards, you see Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Aaron Jones. Again, during this time, Austin Eckler was still available. That's the biggest, fail in this draft, if you will, letting Austin Eckler fall to the 7th pick in the 7th round. Whoever got him there, that's going to be, I promise you, the steal of this entire draft, even including ourselves. Other players before that point, Aaron Jones with the 4th pick in the 2nd, Nick Chubb with the 5th, DeAndre Hopkins with the 6th, then Austin Eckler, then we went Calvin Ridley, then you see Najee Harris and DK Metcalf, Joe Mixon with the 1st pick in the 3rd round, followed by A.J. Brown, then we went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then in the 3rd round so far, we have seen Justin Jefferson with the 4th pick, Keenan Allen with the 5th, David Montgomery with the 6th. Kittle then goes with the 7th pick in the 3rd round. Mark Andrews with the 8th pick in the 3rd round. That's relatively early for him, and I wouldn't endorse that selection of Mark Andrews that high. Now, after that, you see Terry McLaurin, you see CeeDee Lamb, Chris Carson with the 1st pick in the 4th round. I like that. Allen Robinson with the 2nd pick. Then James Robinson. There goes James Robinson. I was secretly hoping he might fall to us. That's not the case, but it's okay. We're going to have some pretty good options here at wide receiver, at running back, so I'm not all that worried. Here, if we can get Robert Woods, I'd be pretty happy, but I think we're probably going to get sniped here by the person picking right before us. If I had to guess, some other selections after James Robinson, you see Amari Cooper. I would have been very happy with Amari Cooper as our number 2 wide receiver. Mike Evans, and then Miles Sanders. In full PPR scoring, I would be selecting Chris Godwin above Mike Evans. I continue to say that. There goes Robert Woods, so we're not going to get a chance to draft him. Instead, I'm just going to go with the wide receiver that I really like, Deontay Johnson. I think he could have a breakout campaign. We need to address that second wide receiver position, so that's exactly what we're doing in this spot. Next up, a discussion we can have is, do we go with somebody like a Cooper Kupp if he's there, that I really like as a flex play? Looking at these running backs that are still available, Dobbins, Jacobs, Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Kareem Hunt. I'd rather have Myles Gaskin above all of them. So I'll risk it and see if he falls to us. I think we could start to see a quarterback run, maybe a run on tight ends as well. Notice how far Darrell Henderson has fallen after the Sony Michel trade. Now, this could be as a result of ESPN not having him that high to begin with, but the fact that they have Sony Michel above Darrell Henderson is absolutely wild to me, especially in PPR scoring. That makes zero sense in my opinion. But we're back on the clock, and we kind of get our wish. Cooper Kupp is still there, so I'm going to pull the trigger on him. I'm not really, even debating it. I guess in the 5th round, you could make an argument for a Patrick Mahomes for a TJ Hawkinson. But since this is a 10-team league and since ESPN doesn't value their quarterbacks as much, I'm hoping, maybe if we miss out on a TJ Hawkinson, that we can get a tier 1 quarterback at some point in the 6th round. And if not, again, no need to panic. We've got a lot of other great options. And the roster we've compiled so far, I would say, is very, very solid. We got Kamara, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp. I really like our wide receivers. I think Ridley is a guy that can be, a top 5 wide receiver. Deontay Johnson, like breakout type of season. Cooper Kupp, right outside the top 12 wide receivers with Matthew Stafford there. So I love our wide receivers. It's tough not to love our running backs as well when you have Alvin Kamara. But look, in the first couple of rounds, the first 5-6 rounds, that's the easy part of a 10-team league. That's where, for the most part, everybody's going to have great choices. It's what you do afterwards, in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. That's really going to make you, stand apart from your competition. And these are the rounds that I'm excited about. Now, the last couple of picks after Cooper Kupp, I do want to mention them as well. Tyler Lockett, Josh Jacobs, Patrick Mahomes. So there you go. We see our first quarterback off the board with the 6th pick in the 5th round. Again, I would say this is primarily because ESPN doesn't have their quarterbacks ranked as high, but in the majority of your leagues, especially in your home leagues, you're going to see these quarterbacks, especially Patrick Mahomes, go at the end of the 2nd, early 3rd round. I don't endorse it, but I understand it. I understand why people do it. I'd much rather wait, for a Kyler Murray, for a Lamar Jackson in the 4th or 5th round if you're really dead set on getting a tier 1 quarterback. I don't think the separation between the guys in tier 1 categories is all that high. Those guys being Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray, along with Lamar Jackson. So we're potentially in a good position to get Lamar Jackson here. I would not be upset at that one bit. Let's see how this thing breaks. There's 4 more picks. If, Myles Gaskin is on the board as well, I'd be very, very happy with him. If, TJ Hawkinson is selected, I'd be all right with Kyle Pitts as well. Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson are still available. So we'll see how this thing goes. And I'm crossing my fingers. My preferred choices would be TJ Hawkinson and then probably, that big-time quarterback. But I anticipate we might get a little bit screwed by auto draft here. We'll see, because that has started to pop up here and there. But no, here Mike Davis was selected with the 4th pick in the 6th round, then Javonte Williams. Again, I don't understand how you're selecting both of them ahead of Myles Gaskin. Speaking of Myles Gaskin, there he goes. So we won't get a chance to draft Gaskin, but instead, I'm hoping we get TJ Hawkinson. Well, TJ Hawkinson was selected with the 7th pick in the 6th round. We've got the 8th pick in the 6th round. So, yeah, that didn't go our way. Well, instead, here, that's all right. We're going to pivot. I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts. I like the upside. Obviously, I don't feel as good about him as I would have TJ Hawkinson, but it is what it is. And then we also get sniped with Lamar Jackson. But I think that was going to happen, if I almost say regardless, just because, the auto pick was either going to select like a tight end next or a quarterback next, maybe potentially even both. So I went with the more important position, in my opinion, with Kyle Pitts and the tight end spot. So we're going to wait on quarterback a little bit. Now, kind of sorting this again, there's a guy that I mentioned here in Darrell Henderson that I think has taken a huge tumble that I don't think it's necessarily deserved. Again, I don't think there's any way he should be ranked behind Sony Michel. So I've got no problem selecting him here as a depth bench piece, as our 3rd running back. We'll see what happens. Yes, he might take like a hit in terms of volume, in terms of his ceiling definitely decreasing. I'm not arguing with that, but I think he's still got RB2 type of potential, no question about it. So I'm happy to land him where I did. Looking at other positions at this point in time, quarterback, obviously, we're going to have to address that a little bit later, but there's a lot of great options. That's why I decided to go Kyle Pitts ahead of those potentially quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson, because tight end really does become a crapshoot after, like I said, that tier of Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, and Kyle Pitts. Are we overvaluing Kyle Pitts? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, where I drafted him in the end of the 6th round, I think, the expectations aren't like me drafting him in the 4th round, which I have seen. And I've seen it in 10-team leagues. I've seen it in 12-team leagues. So, there's a difference of where you draft these guys. Something to be said about that. So I feel much better about getting him at the end of the 6th round as opposed to potentially having to pull the trigger on him, at a different point in time. Would I have been happier with TJ Hawkinson instead of Kyle Pitts? 1000%. I would have been ecstatic if he fell to us. Unfortunately, we get sniped there. Then literally one pick before our selection in the 7th round, we get sniped with Lamar Jackson. If Jackson was there, he would have been my selection. If Hawkinson was there, he would have been my selection. So just kind of, pointing that out. But this is, just be ready for this, folks. Like I said, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, those type of rounds, this is where you really kind of differentiate yourselves in these 10-team leagues because the player pool is much deeper here. And for the most part, everybody is going to have a really good team. So what you do in the later rounds, that's how you're going to stand apart from the competition. Kyle Pitts, I thought it was a good idea to get one of those hopefully upper echelon tight ends. Getting more depth in Darrell Henderson in the 7th round, I think was a good value pick as well. Now here you've seen kind of a run on some tight ends and some quarterbacks. After Darrell Henderson, you saw Odell, Juju, Robbie Anderson, Chase Claypool, Cortland Sutton. Then you see like Logan Thomas, Jerry Jeudy, Jamar Chase, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Devonta Smith, and then Damian Harris. And of course, we have got the obligatory Buccaneers defense, obviously being facetious there, but that's going to be an auto pick type of situation. And we've gotten to the point where there's a lot of auto picks, so you're going to see kickers, you're going to see defenses. There goes Justin Herbert. I'm looking at these other quarterback options. I kind of want to potentially go for upside here. Somebody like a Jalen Hurts with that rushing ability. I might go that direction and then kind of get a safe option in a Matthew Stafford afterwards. Let's see if there's any running backs that right now, potentially I should reach for. No, not really. Wide receivers, is there anybody that you can make a case for right now? I'm not seeing anybody. I'm just going to go with the quarterback position. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts, a guy with high rushing upside, then potentially, hopefully, get somebody like a Matthew Stafford as a safe option. But let's see again. Let's look at the wide receiver position because it's a quick turnaround. Now, we could potentially get a Michael Thomas here, but I think it's a little bit too early. I'm just going to look at other wide receivers. I've said it before, I really like Antonio Brown right around this time. Marquez Callaway, somebody that's had his draft stock just skyrocket, is potentially the #1 wide receiver there in New Orleans without Michael Thomas. So I just went with Antonio Brown and then Jalen Hurts. And then from here, I think we're going to get back to our selection pretty fast in the 10th round because for the most part, everybody has an auto pick. So we're going to be able to make 2 more quick selections and then kind of wrap this thing up. But let's go through our roster right now. We've got, like I mentioned, we started out with Alvin Kamara. If we were able to get Austin Eckler in the 2nd round, that would have been absolutely insane, and I would have just given this an A+ type of grade, regardless of what happened next. But again, I'm biased with Austin Eckler. Wide receivers, I really like the way we kind of ended up with the trio that we have, considering we went wide receiver only once out of our first 3 selections. We ended up with Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, and Cooper Kupp. So very, very much like that combination there. Then afterwards, we ended up barely missing out on TJ Hawkinson, barely missing out on Lamar Jackson. Man, this team would have been absolutely bananas if we had Lamar Jackson and TJ Hawkinson with these group of players. I would have given this a pretty confident A grade. But again, we barely miss out on those. So we got to ding the team for that. Instead, we have Kyle Pitts. Instead, we have Jalen Hurts. So I think this probably right now, roster-wise, belongs in the B+ type of range. I like our depth with Darrell Henderson. We've got Antonio Brown as well. So right now, our last 2 picks probably going to be, some high upside players. At running back, we could go with guys like I'm not going to take Sony Michel. I'm not going to take Raheem Mostert. I'd be looking at, potentially somebody like a Ronald Jones, somebody like a Jamal Williams, guys that I really like there. At wide receiver, we've probably gotten to the point where we could take a flyer on Marquez Callaway and, if he's there, why not? His draft stock is going to be absolutely exploding. I would not be shocked if he's like he's a typical 10th round selection. At this point, it's a bunch of guys at wide receiver that you're kind of getting into the sleeper category. So Marcus Callaway at this point makes some sense. I'm just going to go pick him up for that upside, see what happens, and then potentially get another quarterback. I did mention, obviously us having Jalen Hurts, he's not a for sure thing. So I think backing him up here with a Matthew Stafford makes a lot of sense. Getting that connection with Matthew Stafford and then Cooper Kupp for a nice little stack. I'm also excited about that. So there we go. We kind of put the finishing touches to this roster. Otherwise, other players that I'd be considering here, Russell Gage's, Jamal Williams's, those type of players. But hopefully this was, instructional. This was helpful. Let me hear it in the comment section, along with any questions you guys might have. And if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And in the meantime, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. Get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Details in the description. But we'll see you guys in future videos.